I was confident. I was like, yeah, I'm young. But you can kind of play that in a positive way. It's like, yeah, I'm young. I'm going to hustle. I'm ambitious. I really need this. So I'm going to work for you. And that's kind of how I played it. And people respect that. I got a lot like, oh, I want to help a young guy make it. People root for that too, the underdog. So it's bad in one sense, but you can use it to your advantage too.
Hey guys and gals, this is Trevor with Carrot, of course, and I'm excited about our guest today. I'm excited about all of our guests all the time, but this one's special because very rarely do I actually get to meet our guests in person. There have been a few. So Adrian, of course, who's on the Carrot team, I've met him lots of times. Edward Beck, got to meet him a few weeks back, actually the same time I met today's guest, Tim. And I think that's about it. There might be a couple more of our guests that I've met. And I always love having that personal connection to where you can hang out with someone, you can get to know them at a different level. And our guest today, Timothy Oppelt, had a chance to come out here to Carrot, to our Carrot HQ for the first annual Carrot Camp here this October. And dude, I was just so pumped to hang out with you for those few days. But I want to welcome you on the Carrot Cast first of all. And yeah, dude, welcome to the Carrot Cast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. First official podcast. So
this is your first one, huh? Like first ever. Yeah.
I mean, I've listened to them, but yeah, first one on a. Well, I guess we did the other Carrot Camp one for a few minutes, but I don't know if that counts. So yeah.
Well, I feel honored. I feel honored then that you're on. I'm getting you on the first ever podcast that you've been on, and hopefully this is one of many because. The reason I want to have you on here is, dude, as you know, I love stories. I love entrepreneur stories. I love breaking apart what makes people tick. I love breaking apart what makes people perform at a high level. I love breaking apart happiness and fulfillment. And the cool thing is this is kind of my chance to really talk with other entrepreneurs and kind of dive down that path and get your story out. And you've got a great story. And one thing that's unique about your story from my perspective is at least in this phase of it, we've been able to watch it from pretty much its infancy, you as a real estate entrepreneur to now, of course, full-time investor and doing really well. So I love it. Let's start all the way back at the start, dude, and give people some context. So who are you? Where do you live? What's your business look like today?
Yeah. So I'm 26, going to be 27 in a couple months. Live in Delaware, Bear, Delaware, for those who know anything about Delaware. And I do, real estate. I focus on wholesaling mainly, get properties and sell them to others. Looking to start buying some as well, some here and there, maybe getting to rentals, but not there yet. And I'm doing it full time. We broke six figures last year for the first time. And just trying to grow the business. Just got my second assistant literally on Monday. So, that's pretty much in a nutshell.
I love it, man. And we'll kind of break apart some of those things you mentioned there because I don't want people to look over them. You mentioned your second assistant, so we'll kind of talk about when you added your first person, what types of things they did, now what this person's gonna do. We'll talk about that here in a bit. You're full-time now, but of course you had to make a transition from something. And dude, one thing that you didn't mention that I never knew about you until you were out here in Roseburg and we were sitting down, you mentioned like part of your reason why you're doing what you're doing, and you love tennis, and you've got a dream that you hope that your real estate business could someday help fulfill. Dude, what is that? Like, break that apart for people, because I love having people get that context.
I think people think it's crazy, people who know me. I just love tennis a lot. Like, one thing that gives me the most energy, I just love playing tennis. I picked it up when I was like 16. Unfortunately, I wish I picked it up when I was 3. I'd probably already be on the pro circuit already. But I just love it a lot. And, I'm a big believer in just trying to do what you love and creating maybe a new path for other people. So I know it's difficult to kind of make it in the tennis world if you're not born with a racket in your hand. So I kind of want to try to change that perception that maybe, I'm not saying I can be the best tennis player ever lived, but maybe I can have some success, even though I'm getting older here, but even for a couple of years, because I just love doing it. That's really, I don't care if I ever get paid doing it. I just love playing. So if I could just play tennis all day long, I'd be happy. I like to have some success doing it, but so that's what I want to do. I've realized that, real estate and having a business more so than real estate, but it can help you kind of get to there where you can design your life in the way you want. So.
Dude, so rolling back, the first time that we ever connected, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was at least a couple of years ago, and it's probably on one of our coaching calls. And I remember you popping through there, and it wasn't these exact words, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of it, but you were popping through there and you're saying, hey, you know, I had gone through, I think it was like $3, $4, $5 in pay-per-click costs. You hadn't had it really turn into predictable results for you, and I think that was with your previous website before Carrot. And then you came in saying, man, I was laid off from my job, and we'll go into that situation. You're starting your business. You put in investment into a spot that you hoped would get out a result, and it didn't. And then you came into our ecosystem, and we kind of helped you tweak some things and hone some things. So what happened before that moment? So what were you doing work-wise before you were laid off? How did the layoff happen? And kind of what was going through your mind as a human, as a person when you're in that moment?
Okay, yeah. So I guess a little quick intro story. You know, my dad's a pastor. My mom works in a nonprofit. I've always wanted to help people. I'm from New Jersey originally, you know, central North Jersey or Edison area. Went to college in New Jersey with my girlfriend, who I live with currently. After we graduated, we moved down to Delaware because she's going to grad school at the University of Delaware. So when I moved down here, I didn't have any money. I didn't really know anyone. So I needed to get a job. I originally got a job in a call center for Honda Finance, you know, collecting payments for people. It's the worst job I've ever had. For 3 months, luckily, I got another job offer because, you know, I had a degree and it helped with the local newspaper, the News Journal, for anyone from Delaware, pretty much the main newspaper around here, in digital marketing, actually. So all I had to do is make PowerPoints. They didn't even know, like, looking back, probably what I should have been doing there. But anyway, they hired me and it was better. Yeah, I worked there, and then June 7th, I think it was, 2015, they laid me off. I did not see it coming because everyone there was over 40 and barely knew how to, like, open a new tab in a computer. Yeah. And it's a newspaper company, so, you know, I thought they would need young people like me who knew how to, like, been using Microsoft Word since I was 5, you know. Yeah. But yeah, they laid me off. Obviously, the industry isn't doing great. They've been laying a lot of people off, So they laid me off, and I was already kind of doing real estate for a year at that point. I think I closed 2 deals while I was working there. The first one was for 2, and the second one was for $7,000, all direct mail. So yeah, I was doing it part time, and then they laid me off, and I decided that's really what I wanted to do. And even though I still had lost money overall, like I maybe broke even, but I was like, let's just take a risk and go for it there.
So you mentioned direct mail, right? So you were doing direct mail. Break that apart a little bit. So where was your first touch point with real estate investing? Did you read a book? Did you have a coach or something like that? And then what did you do to get that direct mail out? Did you just make up your own direct mail piece? Did you find something that other people were using? Kind of, what were you doing there?
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's how I got started in real estate. I mean, I always wanted to be kind of financially free. That was kind of a goal of mine, realizing your life could be much better if you control your finances. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and pretty much from there, he was like, do real estate. It was a no-brainer. So, and actually, a lot of people I talked to read that book to get started. It's really interesting. So yeah, I read that book. How I got my first deal, man, it is a mess. Looking back, I just picked lists, U.S. lead list with Terry and Lance, I think their names are, is how I got my first deal. I actually got my first property under contract within the end of 2014, within like 30 days. I sent out probate letters. I sent out like 400 of them. I got my first property under contract for $70,000. I was like, this is easy. Send 300 letters out. I'm going to make $20,000 here. But it ended up, I was estimating the price wrong and the repairs wrong. So I ended up having to back out of the contract, and he didn't want to drop the price. So that was a fail. And it took me 6 months to get another one after dropping I must have spent $5,000 in letters between probates and just trying other lists, and then eventually U.S. lead list. worked. I got the property for eight grand, and I sold for 10 grand. And when in the city of Wilmington, prices can be lower there. So that's how I got started. My second deal was from, God, I don't even remember what it was. Probates or something, maybe. So I ended up just doing it ever since, falling forward with stumbling through different direct mail. I didn't have a pattern. I didn't have a campaign of like, I'm going to do this every month for 6 months and spend this much money. I was just like, throw out list now.
So did you make up your own direct mail piece, or did you get it from somewhere else?
I mean, I probably just use a typical yellow letter, like, hey, this is Jim. We buy money sign your house, something like that. So, yeah, I just bigger pockets and Googled it or something.
Gotcha. Dude, so that's something I want people to really, really notice there, because we talk with a lot of people. We work with thousands of real estate investors, and one of the biggest things that we find from people that don't see success is they hesitate and they try to make everything perfect, right? They try to go for perfection instead of progress. And what you were talking about there was not perfection at all. You're like, I'm just going to get something done. Was that kind of your mindset, was like, I'm just going to move and get stuff done?
Yeah, that's a great question. A good point, because I was in the analysis paralysis, and I think a lot of people are in that phase, probably maybe listening to this or haven't done deals yet. Yep. And it was a decision I made probably maybe 4 months before I closed my first deal. And I was just like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to do it. Like, it's not perfect. I'm like a perfectionist. Like, I want things to be a certain way. I'm like working on my business logo, and it's taking me weeks because I want to change the width of everything. And so that's the kind of person I am. And I just had to say, look, I just have to do it. And even though I don't know what I'm doing, because I didn't know what I was doing, I was like, I will figure it out in the next step. I'm only going to focus on the next step. And once I made that, I remember I made that decision in my mind. Things started to happen, and I started making progress. And I would just go on appointments, even though I had no idea what I was doing. You learn, and you can partner up with people and get help that way too. But it's uncomfortable that way. I think that's people have trouble making that decision. But that's really the way, for me, it led me to like starting to get success.
Dude, so you were 24 or so at this time. Did you? I remember, so I'm 35 now, just turned 35. And I remember when I was 24, 25, really starting to get my legs under me as an entrepreneur. I still had this kind of complex that I was too young for some things. Like, did you have any of that creep in there? Any doubt that you were quote unquote too young to really make it work?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I still have that a little bit. Literally, actually, it probably stopped maybe this year, but every single appointment I would go on, the first thing I'd get is, oh, you're young. I could literally, the first thing once they look at me. I don't even let them ask it anymore. I just tell them my age, because I know they're thinking about it. I know they're going to ask me, but I used to try to wear nice suits and try to hide it and grow a beard, even though I can't. But, it's, people just, they do. It's definitely, I think, a little bit of a barrier. But once you can show, like, I was confident, I was like, yeah, I'm young. But you can kind of play that in a positive way. It's like, yeah, I'm young. I'm going to hustle. I'm ambitious. I really need this. So I'm going to work for you. And that's kind of how I played it. And people respect that. I got a lot like, oh, I want to help a young guy make it. People root for that too, the underdog. So it's bad in one sense, but you can use it to your advantage too.
Dude, and that's the thing I think it's important that people need to look at that is, man, I heard a really good friend of mine, actually, he was on the podcast, Ben Settle. And I've referenced this quote a lot of times. So if you've listened to the Carrot Cast, you've heard this quote. But everyone has these things that are, what we oftentimes look at as skeletons in our closet, things that could be a negative, a negative sales point on the business side. In that case, well, shoot, I'm really young, or people are going to look at it in a negative light. And he said, what you need to do is if we let other people highlight that negative or find that negative, it automatically makes it to where they see it as, oh my gosh, I found that. What else am I going to find, right? And they say take those skeletons, bring them out of the closet, and make them dance. And by that, what they're meaning is all these things. Like, write down that list of all those things that you see as negative parts in your sales pitch, or just things that could be gaps in it, and go, okay, how do I make that a selling point? And that's kind of what you've done on the age side of it, is going, okay, this is something that some people will see as a negative, but I'm going to take it, I'm going to spin it toward a positive and show them how it's actually going to be better for them in this transaction.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely got to do that.
I love it, dude. So let's make the transition here. So you got your first couple deals done. You were using direct mail. You were hustling. You got past the analysis paralysis. And that was the thing that popped in my brain is when you said that you were just going out and doing it, knowing you, getting to meet you in person, hanging with you for a few days. I know you're very meticulous. I'm like, that doesn't match up. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Glad you mentioned it. So at what point did you go to the web? Because now, what percentage of your leads and deals come from the internet versus direct mail now?
Right now? Well, right now, 99% of them come from online. I just stopped doing direct mail a couple months ago. Okay. Yeah, because it's just looking at the numbers, it's been working out for me. And I honestly, I'm bad at direct mail. Like, I don't know why, but I'm just not good at it. So no point trying to fight it. Might as well just do. Like, I learned digital marketing when I was, like I said, at the job I had. So, that's why I started getting online, because I was look, what can be my competitive advantage? And, I know a lot of people in real estate are older. So again, going back to the age thing, like, I have a different perspective. I know the internet, I'm more comfortable with it than most people. So let me try that.
So what was your first move? What was your first move when you're like, all right, I'm gonna get going online. I'm gonna try to get leads online. Here's what I'm gonna do next.
Got to get that domain name, right? First thing, got to get the domain name. So I got WeBuyHomes.de. Yep. Somehow no one had it. So I was lucky about that. GoDaddy, I got it at GoDaddy. And then I was like, well, they got me a domain, so they can get my website too. So I got the website builder. I spent hours and hours and hours on this website builder that they have, trying to align things. It's like the worst builder. You have to they don't even have like a measurement to align things. You have to eyeball it. And it was, a horrible website. I'd probably still up somewhere, but yeah, that's how I got started. And then I just got Google Ads. I knew how to do Google AdWords because I was trained in it to some extent. I thought I knew. I was trained in it to some extent. Looking back, I was trained improperly. And they kind of do it. They sell their product improperly as well, I think. Oh. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I did it.
So you launched a GoDaddy site. You threw some Google AdWords at it. What happened after that for you?
I went hard. Yeah, I must have spent. I don't know exactly. Like you said, maybe between 3,000 to 5,000. Probably more closer to 5. I don't want to maybe admit that to myself, but yeah, I just spending $1,000 a month. Again, just like direct mail, just like, let's do it. Let's go at it. And I got some leads in, but I didn't actually. I think the second deal I closed, looking back, because I started doing it when I was doing direct mail all over the place. The second deal I got, the first deal was from direct mail. The second deal I got was from Bing. It's probably been the only deal I've ever gotten from Bing, but someone went to my website and somehow found my form and filled it out. And that's how I got my second deal.
Sweet.
So yeah, and it was $7,000. And I was like, okay, well, this kind of works. Yep. And so that's when I started putting more money into it. I pretty much took that $7,000 and I was like, let's put at least half of it back into it. And then I didn't get any more deals except that one. So maybe it was a fluke. That's what I think. And then, yeah, so it wasn't working for me. And then I got laid off at that point. So
you got laid off. You just dumped $3,000 to $5,000 in paid traffic that didn't recoup back what you're looking to get. And then somewhere along the way, is when we connected and met, and I saw you on that coaching call. So what was your next move? I guess, how did you find Carrot? Why did you decide to join? Because you already had a website, right? So why did you think that then joining Carrot was going to make that situation better? And kind of what did you experience after that?
Well, I knew what wasn't working. And what wasn't working was my GoDaddy website. And I thought, and I wasn't sure if it was the website or the AdWords. I thought maybe it was both. But I knew it wasn't working and I didn't know what the solution was. And I don't know exactly how I heard about you guys. It might have been probably through the Facebook group, maybe the wholesaling Facebook group, if you were on that a couple years ago. Yep. I knew some people were using you. And yeah, I just looked at your website and it made sense. I just saw the word real estate investor and website, and I was like, okay, well, I need a website and I'm a real estate investor. So, it spoke to me because I'm the target audience. Anything deeper than that, I don't know. It just made sense because you convinced me that it would work. And I wasn't sure if it would, but you convinced me to try it. So
yeah. And I remember, like I said, man, that first couple combos where I think with anything, especially when you've kind of had a little bit of I wouldn't call what you had was failures, right? You had tried a bunch of stuff and it just wasn't working the way that you wanted. You were kind of probably a little bit dejected a little bit at that moment, going, okay, I don't have unlimited money to keep on piling into this, so I need to make it work. And you probably weren't 100% convinced that, okay, I really hope the carrot thing works, but I'm not like 100% sure that it will. And like I said, I remember being on that coaching call, and one of the things that I remembered, I'm not sure if you remember any of this, but the first thing we dug into once you got your carrot site launched is you were still driving traffic to it with that old AdWords campaign, and it still wasn't performing as well. And do you remember, because I know we had Brendan on my team take a look at it, do you remember any of what it was about your AdWords account that wasn't set up right that he helped you with, or is that something that's so long ago that...
I mean, I know exactly what it was at this point. It was just like the broad keywords, right? So you think that because, and a lot of investors still do this, like you think because you're paying for the keyword "we buy houses" that you're showing your ads to people who type in "we buy houses," right? It makes sense. But if you're not familiar with the language of AdWords, you know that that's not the case at all. You know, most of the, probably 80% of the money is going to go to what they deem is a broad match to "we buy houses," which could be "sell house," right? And I don't want to pay for people who type in "sell house" because those are not the target audience. So it was getting traffic, but none of it was converting because it was all people, generic people who didn't want my service. Yep. So it's just not, I wasn't as familiar with Google Ads as I thought, and I didn't have the strategy down like I thought. And that's why it was great, because you guys did have, you know, working with Brendan was good, but you also had like the tutorials, I believe, about pay-per-click. So that kind of taught me, and also the training, like I think it was a lot of the coaching calls, like I was like really paying attention to the pay-per-click stuff. And I know I would like, when, you know, Brendan, you guys would go through the accounts, just like scrolling through, I would just like look at and see, okay, what do their ad groups look like? Like, I'm just like, while he's showing his screen up, I was like, let me write down all his ad groups and the keywords, because I can copy them. And then it ended up working. So, yeah, that's probably for me, like the biggest value. I mean, the conversion is great, but getting the pay-per-click correct. And now I don't even hit my budget and I do better than I did before. That was probably for me the biggest help. I didn't know that going into it, but that ended up being like a huge value add for me.
Dude, and it's so interesting because I find this in my own story, in my own journey, and we talk with, of course, a lot of clients, and where we think by implementing the thing, in this case, implementing the tool of AdWords or implementing the website, that by implementing those, therefore it's going to get the result. But there's so much strategy. Like there's so much strategy that if you're not experienced in the practitioner, you know, if you're not an experienced practitioner in that craft of dialing in a website for conversion and performance, or of SEO, if you're just kind of trying to, you know, just go through and do your own SEO, or the strategy behind why ad groups should be the way that they are and things like that. Like the strategy is 3/4 of the battle, and that's where people they go out there and implement something doesn't work, but it's because they don't understand the strategy behind it. So now, going from where you were to where you are now, how has your kind of just your marketing knowledge upgraded your business, and also kind of what would you feel you focus on the most these days in the marketing side?
I mean, it's all about return on investment, and then you drill that in too with all of your content and training. And it's not about the leads; it's about the deals. And I know, you know, like listening to Tom Kroll too. I know I think he's kind of the coaching partner you guys have. Listening to his stuff, he's like, doesn't matter how many leads you get, man. It's how many deals you convert. And it's true. So my marketing, I look at how much am I profiting? I don't care about I care about the leads a little bit, but it's about the deals and the return on investment. So I'm looking at what gives me the biggest return, and I'm trying to get at least, 4-to-1 on my money, ideally. And with my websites, I'm like at least 5-to-1, on that. And my direct mail, I was like 1 to 2.5, maybe. I think this year I was like 1 to 0.2.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's bad this year. Probably me not knowing what I'm doing. Looking back, I'm sure I could figure out why, but I decided just to let it go. But yeah, looking at the ROI of everything, and just trying to dial that in. And right now, the next step is trying to scale it up, but profitably, because I tried scaling up at the beginning of the year. Like, okay, I want twice as many deals, so let's spend twice as much money on direct mail. And that didn't work for me. And, you know, I'm not 100% sure if it was the list or what it was, but, you know, with respect to online, I'm trying to figure out the best way to scale it up.
Yeah.
And really, at this point, like starting to move into Delaware County, because I know online, for me, it's easier to go into a new market than to learn direct mail.
Yep.
So I've decided to do that, and maybe doing some Facebook ads, learning that and getting that set up and building into the ecosystem of everything, and also doing more ads with, like we talked about earlier in the sales cycle. I know it's a little more advanced, but like trying to target just more keywords for people that I'm trying to target.
Man, so we kind of stuff you're referencing right now, when you're out at Carrot Camp, we kind of dove in on the second day. And we're hitting strategy with people, and that was one of the questions you asked was, you know, how do I scale up and expand in my market? And the few things that we had talked about, just kind of recap this for people listening in. The few things we talked about is you can expand out into other locations, which is one thing you mentioned that you're going to be doing. So what other neighboring markets, or just any market that you just want to go into, can you go after and implement the same strategy that you've already been implementing in your home market that's working? You know, number two, how can you go broader in that same market? You know, are there more leads and more visitors you can capture by expanding your Google AdWords out to go to more retail or more broad phrases, or diving deeper in like probate specific or divorce specific things?
Right.
So it's not just to the sell my house faster, we buy houses type phrases. Those are amazing because they're probably going to be the highest ROI. But can we go after ones that are also really, really going to be great ROI, but expands your base out a little bit? So right now you're doing pay-per-click still. What's your budget per month, if you don't mind sharing? Like how much you're spending?
$2,000 per month.
Okay. And then how many deals a month are you pulling out on average from that?
2 to 3.
Okay.
Probably 2 to 3. Yep.
Sweet.
Yep. Yeah, averaging probably eight. I think overall average for the year is 8,500. Probably online might be a little bit more.
Cool.
But yeah, that's doing that. That's why I did a little over 100 this year. Hopefully to do like 160 this year. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And I would pay more. Like my budget for AdWords before was 1,000, and I wasn't even hitting it. I was spending 500 or 600 a month, and I wasn't hitting it. And that's a sign like, okay, I need to. Like my ROI was so good, but I was so limited.
Yep. Like
you can have 600% ROI, but it doesn't matter if you're only getting one deal. You know, I'd rather take 10 deals at 3-to-1 ROI than one deal at 10 ROI, right? So that's and that's something that you've kind of taught as well. Trying to shift that mindset. Like it's okay to have you kind of have to have a lower ROI to get more to scale up a little bit, I think so.
Dude, and that's the thing. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's in all businesses, right? So here at Carrot, if I were to run this business by myself, right, and I was to just go out there and hire out someone coding up things, I was to do all the content, I was to do this, I was to do that, my profit margin would be really, really high, right? Yeah. I mean, I might be able to like 80 to 90% of every dollar that comes in I could probably keep. But the thing is, I couldn't keep nearly the volume of dollars that I can now, because now I have a team of 15, soon to be about 18 people that are doing a bunch of stuff. So, while I'm not collecting the 80 to 90% margins, now it's more like 40%, but it's 40% of a much bigger number, right?
Right.
And that's the thing I think people need to kind of transition their mindset over to is, and this is a really, really good segue, is people, right? So as you're growing your business and you're finding a way to predictably put in money into marketing channels and get money out, and you've got SEO going too, so that's a part of the mix. Let's take this quick detour. So on the SEO side of things, the pay-per-click side of things, do you know about what your deal mix breaks out to as far as where deals are coming from, PPC versus SEO?
I think it's probably about 50-50, I would say. I mean, I am working it's probably like 30 30 PPC, 30 SEO, and then 30 like from my website. Like I have a category just as website where people come to me from my website, but I'm not sure how they got there.
Yep.
And I know that's difficult. Like, I wish I could track that better. Or if they call my website phone, like, I don't know if they saw my phone number from SEO or from pay-per-click, but I know they found my website somehow.
Yep.
So it's hard for me to determine if it's SEO or PPC, but I think I'm probably doing like 30% unknown and then 30% the other two.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Cool. So we know the marketing mix now. And then where along the way did you decide, man, I need someone to help me? So you've got one assistant, you're just hiring the next one. What did that first person do? What type of hours do they do now? And why did you think that, man, I really need help here?
It wasn't like the situation where it was like, oh, there's so much work for me to do, I'm drowning in it. It was more like, I believe in simplicity, like a big on like a lifestyle, and I think the simpler my life is, the more successful I'll be, as strange as that sounds. So it got to a point where I didn't enjoy talking with an old lady for 20 minutes on the phone, where I knew it wasn't gonna work out, but she just let her talk anyway, and I didn't want to be making those calls all the time. And the plan was to grow to a point where I wouldn't be able to handle it anyway, but I was kind of, maybe you could argue that maybe I did it too soon too. Maybe I should have waited a couple months to hire someone, but basically I didn't want to make the calls anymore. And I do want to build a business, and I think it's a good practice to start doing that. And it makes sense. I mean, from just like an ROI perspective, like paying someone to do it, and it frees up more of your time. I think the best money spent in business is on people, like looking back. So I think the best ROI you're going to get is from hiring people. So that's I guess how I decided to hire somebody.
So this person is making phone calls, probably collecting some of the live calls, if not all of them. What else are they doing?
So it goes to my calls. It's a little much right now, but they go to a call center, Pat Live, and then we get sent an email form, the information, and so the leads come in that way, but also the forms from Carrot when they send to me. So those two, he calls them within 3 hours. That's he gets a little bonus if he calls within 3 hours each lead. And that's his main task, is calling the leads and setting up appointments for me, and then I'll handle it from there. And he also did the marketing ordering, giving me marketing reports as well. Those were really the main two tasks, working 15 hours a week probably. Average, nothing too crazy. He's actually a realtor as well, up in Pennsylvania. So he knew the sales, like he understands the lingo in real estate, and he's trying to get into investing as well, flipping properties too. So he gets it. So it was a good fit.
So I'm going to toss a question to you, dude. So you were mentioning that response time on the calls. Have you guys tested for any period of time, like a month or two, where you guys answer everything live and immediately to see the difference in result?
Well, I know when I first got the call center, Pat Live, like what I used to do is send them to my voicemail when I was doing it myself, and then I would call them as soon as I could. They would all go to Google voicemail, and I call them back. I know a lot of people still do that. Once I switched to doing the calls answered live by the call center, then I actually started having more success just from doing that, even before I hired someone. So I don't know why, it started being smoother that way. So that's why I kept them around. Ideally, I would like to just hire someone to be at the phone all day long. I can get rid of Pat Live. This assistant, he's out and about all day. He's calling them when he can. I'd rather just have someone in the office picking up the phone when they come in and getting it done that way, setting the appointment on the spot. But you have to pay someone to be at the phone for 8 hours as well, and that I think I have to fire someone full time. So I don't feel like there's enough volume from getting a handful of calls a day for me to warrant someone doing that. So
it's something definitely to kind of dig into and test for a month or two. The reason I say this is talking to some really high level investors at a couple masterminds this year, and also just looking at some data that we've got. The ones who they're running pay-per-click traffic. One of them does a high volume in Southern California. And he's like, man, I'm running PPC. I'm not getting the result that I need. The only thing that they changed during that test. They changed from the calls going to a call service and then their team calling them back to answering every one of them live immediately right there. And do their ROI skyrocketed. Same amount of traffic, same amount of leads. And kind of if we think through the psychology of it, if you're a seller and you're motivated, right? You're highly motivated. you're probably, and if they found you online, you're probably not the only company that they found. So
Right.
they're going to make the phone call in that 3 hours that they're waiting for your call. They're probably going to bop over and like call another one of those companies. And if that other company had that immediate response and they called either right back within minutes or they answered it live and they had a chance to build that relationship, go down that path, by the time we call them back in 2, 3, 4, 5 hours later, the chance to close that deal might be gone. And if there's just one deal caught that month, and let's say it's a $5,000 profit deal or something like that, and that itself, just catching one more extra deal pays for that person by far. So it's something I'll toss out there. I don't know what you want to test. If you want to, dude, if you want to pull away for 2 weeks or a month and go, all right, I'm going to do a test here. And oftentimes I'll do this where if I want to test something, heard a really, really great quote from an investor one time, not a real estate investor, but a venture capital guy. And he said, oftentimes to scale things, you need to do the things that don't scale at the start. And what that means in this context is possibly you pulling away, you answering all those calls live as they come through for a month and just going, okay, let me just see if it makes a difference. And then if it does and your close ratio goes up, then you plug someone in with full confidence that actually it's paying for themselves and they're actually making more money by adding that person in there full time to do it. So anyway, something to toss out there when I heard that.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude. So marching forward in this. So the second person that you have, so the first one sounds like they're answering calls, they're helping to do the initial call, set up appointments for you, go out there and do it. This next person that you've been working with, what are they doing? Because that's a pretty new addition for you.
Yeah. So this is something I've realized, like I wasn't planning on hiring someone, but after going to Carrot Camp, I realized what I enjoy doing. I like the strategy of making systems. I thought I liked making systems, but I realized I like the idea of the system. I like making like the spreadsheets and the documents about the systems, but implementing the systems myself, I'm my own bottleneck doing that. Like my follow-up system is not good. Some of the tracking with the way my leads are managed isn't great. The database is okay. It could be better. And just getting more systems up to grow the business. I've realized, in the last few weeks, like I don't think I can. It's going to be harder to force myself to change. Like I've already been trying to do that and it hasn't been working. So it's more like self-awareness. So I'm like, look, let me hire someone part-time to fill that void, someone who can implement the systems for me. So that the person I hired, well, she handles the database and she'll build systems for me for the business. I'll work with her on designing it and then she'll go and like make it happen. So and
this is fascinating, dude. I'm so glad we're breaking this apart. So you've basically outsourced a lot of the front-end call stuff. So you go to appointments. Now you're working on plugging someone else in there to help do some of the things that you just don't like to do within the systems. What is it that you want to do? Like what is it in your role? You're going, man, this is my ideal day. If I could just do this other than play tennis all day, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of it. Yeah. I guess is that what you're doing? Is that what you're trying to remove yourself as much as possible so you can go chase that the tennis dream?
Yes and no. Yes, long term, I do want to remove myself for the most part from my business. Like what I like to do, I like going on the appointments. I like solving problems. Like every deal comes up, or most deals, closing one tomorrow. Thankfully, there hasn't been a single issue. So probably tomorrow closing, something's going to fall apart. But most deals, there's some issue problem solving. I think I'm good at, and I enjoy working with people and figuring out their needs. Like even if they don't know what they need, like I'm good at just understanding people in that aspect and coming up with solutions for them that makes everybody happy. So I enjoy that. I enjoy going on appointments. I enjoy getting to closing. That's the stuff I enjoy doing. And I like designing the marketing systems too. I enjoy doing that. So that's really what I'm doing. But I mean, the next step would be to hire someone to do those things for me as well. And then at that point, assuming we have to do enough volume, we're not there yet. But after that, sky's the limit. I can choose to work in the business or not,
And dude, so this right here, I'm so glad we talked about this, because this right here is the step that so many people forget when they're building their business. I know I did the first couple of times around. Is you build the business originally with freedom, flexibility, finances in mind, but then you end up working so much as a cog in that machine that you don't have the freedom, you don't have the flexibility, you might have the finances, but no time to use them. And dude, that's so cool. You're having the intention right now, going, okay, I'm going to intentionally make sure that I have the flexibility and freedom in here.
Yeah.
I love it. So how many hours a week are you working right now?
Probably 20 to 30, if that, depending. Busy weeks, like recently it's been more, but I'd say average probably 20 to 30. And it's spent talking with people, getting the deal closed, talking with the attorney, title stuff, going on appointments, driving the appointments, working on marketing, stuff like that.
Sweet. So a couple more questions for you, man, here, and then we'll bounce. But dude, I love having these convos with our clients, especially ones where I've been able to see the journey from very early on, from when I knew you were at a pivotal point. Early on, you're like, I dropped all this money. I'm not going to have an unlimited supply. How can you help? We dove in, helped you tweak that strategy. What do you think the biggest things that you've done as far as implementation with Carrot, whether it's on the SEO side or dialing in your websites? Like, what's the biggest thing that you have done that's really helped to make that work really well? And what do you think is the biggest kind of benefit and advantage of doing all that on Carrot versus going out there and building your own website or something?
Well, I think Carrot is not just like a web hosting platform. Like all the products and everything is really built for you. Like, you don't do it for the people. I mean, you could, I think, if you paid, but there's the opportunity. You're like, here's the door. Like, you can choose to open it and come through. It's going to take work, but at least here's a door when maybe there wasn't before. So for me, like I was in all the coaching calls for like the first 3 months, man. I probably was every single one, and I was extremely active. Like, I was probably annoyingly active.
No, you were good, man.
Everything. Yeah, I mean, it was great, and just like absorbing. Like, I got the 3 leads per day. I ran through that, like absorbed it as quick as I could. Yeah. So that was just, I implemented everything. It wasn't just like put a website and call it a day. I was like, no, that's not good enough. Like, I'm hoping that this works out. Like, I was betting a lot on InvestorCarrot that it would help me. Like, this was the answer for me. And I really trusted that the information that you had would work. And I was like, I'm already all in anyway, so let's just like really go in. Like, what I got to lose at this point? Let me just like absorb everything and try to make it work, and hopefully it does, and it ended up working out. Thankfully, that's why I love you guys, because I was like on the point, I was like on the cliff, and then I was like, oh no, if you guys didn't work out, I would have fell, but I didn't. You guys pulled me up, so it's great,
dude. And that right there, I mean, like I said, these types of comments are what fire me up. This is why I want to continue to grow our business, because I'm doing just fine financially. I don't need to grow the business financially, but dude, I love it because the thing that I can't like stand is leaving an entrepreneur at a point to where I know if they go the other direction that they're worse off, that they may not be able to actually chase and achieve that dream that they want. And I just know and I believe that entrepreneurs are the change agents in the world. It's like when you can go out there and create a business and start to create that freedom and flexibility and the finances, now you have all those tools you need to go out there and change the world. You have the freedom and time to do so, and the finances to amplify it. And I love hearing it, man, because that to me, like, that hits me at my core. And that is exactly why I get up every day, continue to build our team, is that stuff right there. Is pushing more entrepreneurs over to that side of actually building a great business, which I love it.
Good. Well, I hope it inspires others. I mean, it can be done. I mean, it takes a lot of like commitment, for sure, to make it happen. Like I want to share that there was a pivotal point after I got laid off, about when I decided to go with InvestorCarrot, that the company called me again that just laid me off like 2 weeks earlier. And they were like, we have another position for you, and it actually pays more than your last job. It's a little bit more work. Do you want it? It was like a marketing manager. And I was like, crap, like, what do I do? And I already decided, man, I was all in. I was like, if I'm really going to stick to this decision, man, I turned it down. I was like, no, I'm not taking it, because it would a better job than they laid me off at. And I was like, no, I'm all in with this. And I think if you have that mentality, you'll be more successful quicker too. So I just want to say that it's like InvestorCarrot's great, but you also need to you need to be serious about it, like be committed to it.
Dude, so last question, last two questions. So you shared an amazing, like probably the most well thought out spreadsheet of books I've ever seen in my life at Carrot Camp. So,
yeah.
So what book are you reading today? Like, if you're reading one, what's the most recent book you've read, or what book you're reading now?
I'm reading, a couple books. I'm reading, I think it's like Financial Intelligence. It's like this kind of dry book about managing your finances. I think it's called Financial Intelligence. And it's just because I need to get better at because the winter's coming, and last year I kind of ran out of money and I didn't manage my cash flow properly. I know that's a big thing, especially if I have assistants.
Yep.
I need to make sure I don't run out of money to pay them. So I'm reading that. And I also got this other book right here. It's called How Art Can Make You Happy. I was in DC at a museum, and I don't know, something spoke to me, and I got the book. I'm not an artist. I don't know anything about it, but diving into this little quick book here, and we'll see what it's about. So that's what I'm working on right now.
I love it, dude. And if you had any advice on someone that was in your position, a couple of years ago, that they're kind of either teetering on going one way or the other, and Carrot is an option for them, kind of what advice would you give them if they're looking at Carrot as an option versus going it alone or going with another system?
You mean in terms of should they go with InvestorCarrot or not?
Yeah. What would you do if you had to do it again? Then also what would you advise them to do after they joined, that first month or two?
Yeah. I mean, if before you join, I would just say trust InvestorCarrot. That for me, that worked. I know it sounds simple, but if you're debating about whether to do it or not, do it because it works. I don't know how else to say it. It just does. If it didn't work, I wouldn't say it didn't work. It could very well not have worked like other companies, and then don't do it. But this one worked. After you get it, just be committed. Don't a lot of new people, myself included, lost a lot of money doing it, try a bunch of different things. They're okay at direct mail. They're okay at online. They're okay at band signs. They're okay at this, okay at that. And I said, no, dive in. If you're going to do InvestorCarrot and you're really just getting started, you probably don't have a lot of funds because you're getting started. Maybe that's why you want to do it in the first place. Most people, I would say dive in 100%. 100. I don't know how much it is now, but it's around 100 a month, right, for InvestorCarrot. And it's so worth it. And you need to be able to spend that money, and you need to just dive into what they're saying. And even the YouTube videos and the SEO, man, that doesn't cost money. That's your time, but just be 100% committed to it. At least give it, I would say, 3 months. If you're just doing SEO, 9 months. If you're just doing SEO, it's gonna take some time. Be tough to get started doing that. But I would say 3 months, 100% all in, give it a shot and see what happens.
Tim, dude, appreciate it, man. And everyone who's had a chance to listen to this episode of the Carrot Cast, oh, geez. First of all, go check out the other episodes of the Carrot Cast, where we have some other ones where people were just getting started. They went through their journey as well. So if you connect with those, the funny thing is they all had very similar decisions, very similar commitments that they made, where they're like, I am going to commit to this. I'm not saying I'm going to try it. I'm committing to it. That's one thread that all of those had. It's I'm committing to it. It's going to work, or there's no plan B, which I love. Yeah. And then the next thing is follow Tim as he hits the what is the tennis circuit like? What is the professional? NBA is basketball, MLB is baseball.
It's the ATP. It's called
the ATP, man. So look for Tim Appel. Look for Tim Appel on the APT or whatever it is, ATP, something like that. As he gains more time in his business. And dude, I'm just so excited for what you've been able to do this year and last year. And just once again pumped to be able to meet you here this past month out here at Carrot Camp. So hopefully we'll be able to meet each other again sometime soon. And yeah, dude, congratulations on all the success so far. I wasn't doing what you're doing at 26, that's for sure. Some nice work.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great, and I am very grateful for you guys. So definitely going to continue and go even more deeper into Carrot and utilize it even more. So thanks for having me. It's been wonderful, and I hope someone out there has learned something or been inspired to take action from it. That's what it's about. So totally. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.